Welcome to the very first episode of Alumilite's podcast. Still to be determined what it's going to be called. I'm sitting with Larry Dahlberg. Larry Dahlberg has, I'd say, a legacy actually in the fishing world. You've done everything under the sun when it comes to anything that revolves water and gaming fish. And maybe gaming fish is the wrong term, so you're going to have to correct me when I bash up the terminology when it comes to fishing. You started giving guided tours when you were 11 years old to executives. I'd like to start there and kind of like give our audience a little perspective about who you are on some level.
Well, I wouldn't exactly call what I was doing a guided tour. What happened, there was an old fella named Charlie who died.
Okay.
Who had been a guide for ever and ever. He was a homesteader, actually, up in the part of the world where I grew up. He died, and Mr. Pillsbury was coming to the fishing camp.
Mr. Pillsbury of Pillsbury, like bakery.
Yeah. And they called my dad and said, "Help, we need a guide." And he said, no, I'm going muskie fishing Saturday. Take the kid. He knows where the bass are. And so I got a tryout and got a full-time job guiding fly fishermen for smallmouth.
So guiding fly fishermen at 11 years old, and the first one was with Mr. Pillsbury. How do you say that? I'm probably butchered his name there. But what other kinds of people were you guiding? It's not necessarily a guide, but were you taking on these adventures? Because we had a brief conversation yesterday, and like they believed you were a savant. You're like this 11-year-old that like knows the lake.
Well, anybody who's a guide knows what it's like to have to fish every day.
Okay.
Have to fish every day. Some days it's nice, some days it's not. Some days you get a guy who's really a good angler, and other times you get somebody that is just, it's really difficult. Every lure is in a tree. And this fellow Pillsbury was a remarkably good caster.
Okay.
And it was like a private club of, I think, 13 guys. And most of the other guides were older fellas, 40, 50, 60 years old. And they had a lot of experience, but mostly when they fished for themselves,
okay,
they fished for walleyes, not for smallmouth. Back then, the first sport fisherman was the first man who went fishing when he didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, the other guides knew generally which banks, the bass are on, and that's probably the most likely place and so on. But as a kid, when my dad would let me loose, sometimes 2 or 3 days by myself, camping, no food or water, just, eat little brook trout that I catch in a stream, cook them on a stick. I didn't have to brush my teeth or take a bath or anything. I could just do whatever I wanted. And so what I would do is capture crayfish and stuff, and I'd climb up in these trees, and I'd just look and throw crayfish in and see what came out.
Right.
Polaroid glasses hadn't been invented yet.
So you had to climb the tree just to be able to see what was going on.
Yeah, in a lot of places there's no tree. But anyhow, as we started floating down the river, the first spot, I had a spot pretty close to the landing where there was a big orange rock, and there was always I'd feed this fish crayfish. And Mr. Pillsbury said, "Wow, man, I've been in this river for 40 years, and I've never fished this spot." And I cast a little further to the right. Okay, get ready. Boom. Fish bites. And I had a bunch of places where I knew where these fish were because I was dealing with them quite frequently. And every time I tell Mr. Pillsbury, "Okay, right here, there'll be one," and there was one. And he thought I was a savant because he'd been 40 years, nobody had ever. And so I got a full-time job. And it was not because I was such a good fly fisherman, it was because I was good at catching crayfish and climbing trees.
Which is kind of like a crazy dream job when you're 11 years old.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
and when was this? Like, give me some time frame. So, like,
well, I was born in 1949. So it'd be about 1960, 61.
So you're giving these, taking these executives down the river and showing them spots that they've never seen before. And so how did they keep you in that job? Because like obviously they don't want to give away.
You're hired.
That's it. Like you're not allowed to take anybody else on these tours.
Well, no, what they do is give us a guaranteed wage.
Okay.
And then you just don't guide other people. And my dad wouldn't let me take anybody muskie fishing. Those were hours.
Okay.
And so the way I got started, I was hooked on fishing from the time I can remember fishing. I can remember my first fish. It was a crappie caught through the ice. I was probably 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, really?
I can still remember the smell of fish and wood burning and the sound of a lantern. And I can remember this little orange bobber going down.
Oh,
and
man.
I pulled it up hand over hand, and this crappie came out, and my dad was hollering at me for something. It was because I was, but back in those days, we didn't use little reels. You just pull up the line. I was putting the line on the stove.
Oh, man.
And so the line is melting as I'm pulling it in and everything. But I still remember that. And as a little kid before, he would take me pan fishing and walleye fishing in the spring. But when it came time for muskies, it was, okay, you got to stay home now.
Really?
And we killed them back then. And he'd bring home these great big muskies that had great big teeth and big eyeballs. And it just, my heart would start beating when I just would look at him. And I begged him to come along. But he said, okay. He drew a line in our backyard and made a swing set. And I had to stand behind this line and cast not this way or this way, straight overhand, because we're in boats and these are dangerous lures. And I had to be able to cast under the swing set into the box. The box is about this big, 8 out of 10 times. He said, when you can do that, you can come along.
Man.
Well, by the time I was 6 years old, I could hit that thing 8 out of 10 times.
How much were you practicing on a regular basis?
Well, I was there. If I just got on my bike, I could take 5 pedals and coast down a hill, and I was at a little reservoir.
Okay.
And I had a Fluger skill cast, bait casting reel, non-free spool, and an old steel rod, a little tackle box with some silver daredevils in it. And I could go there anytime I wanted, as long as I had my orange life jacket on. I was there from the time the sun came up until dark.
You had to get some food, yeah.
Well, I was just fishing, and I didn't eat very much. I still don't when I'm fishing. But anyway, I was there every day, all day. And you're developing your mechanical skills doing that. And anyway, I was 6 when I could hit it, and my mom intervened, said, hey, you promised. When he do that, you got to take him. And he did. And that's when I learned how to row a boat. I didn't get to fish until we were anchored. And I remember it was a great boat, a Grumman sport boat. Okay. They're 14 odd feet long, 42 inches wide, 114 pounds. And I had to sit on 2 cushions, and I had the oars up here. And I couldn't, if I got up real good, I could see over the gunnels, but I couldn't see real good. And I'd be like this, and my dad'd say, okay, pull on the right oar. Okay, now push on the left oar. Push on the left oar and pull on the right oar. Okay, good. Pull on both oars. Good. And he's going, toom, 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 toom,
right.
Hitting all the spots. And then we'd drop the
anchor. He was having you be your little motor.
I was his electric Indian.
Right, yeah.
But it was a wonderful way to grow up, and the discipline that he instilled in me in terms of developing my mechanical skills before I got in the water is something that is very, 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 very valuable.
Awesome.
It's like if you're going to go duck hunting. Okay. Here's a shotgun. Go out and shoot a duck. Good luck.
Right.
You need to practice your mechanical skills at anything before you go in the field. So anyway, that's kind of how I got started.
So you've been, I want to, so the people that don't know you, I'm really glad that you shared how you got into fishing. And then that's like just the start of your story. The reality is, like, you've been doing something like that since you were 6, like when it comes to fishing, something that you're like, makes you excited, and the act of discovery has occurred.
Yeah.
That's something that we chatted about yesterday. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious to what happened after that, because you, we know you because of MakeLure.com. It's a website that is part of Alumilite's brand. It's very much something that you are passionate about when it comes to teaching people how to make their own lures, how to make their own thing that they can then go and have their own act of discovery. It's something that you clearly are passionate about, and something that you've done most of your life. But it's not just the fishing thing. It's like making things at the same time, and that's also seems to be a part of you. So where did you learn that when you were little as well, that you liked making things as well?
Where I grew up, nobody had anything.
Okay.
and including money. And the conversation would, as a child, that I heard 1,000 times, somebody would be looking at something that someone had purchased and say, I think I could make that. It'd be some old Swedish guy. I can make that for $15. And
Really?
so we made everything.
Okay.
It's just anything you could make, you would make, partly because of the economics. And partly because where do we get it? We didn't have Amazon or eBay or the internet. You had a little hardware store in town, and you're lucky if you could buy a hook that you needed. And so you make do. Okay. And you create what you need.
So when did you make your first lure?
Oof. Long time back. As a kid, 6, 7 years old, my dad would be melting lead on top of a wood stove in the basement with a old vice grip and a sardine can, and we'd take a board of oak usually, and then you carve out whatever and make a mold out of it. And we'd make lead heads that went on a lure called a musky hound. It was just a lead weight that went ahead of a bunch of bucktail, and so we'd be tying bucktails and that. So I was tying flies, like little simple black gnats, when I was 6 years old.
It's
very
kind
simple
of wild
to
to
make.
me that most of your story echoes your childhood. And I got a little bit of goosebumps because I'm recently a dad. I've got 2 little boys. I've got a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. And I'm very aware of how much fathers impact their boys. And what I hear from you is just how deeply your dad's love for fishing and kind of also separation at a certain point. You have to be able to do certain things in order to come with me because it's not necessarily safe for my 3-year-old to come out on the water with me, that kind of stuff. But also that's a lot of care and love at the same time because he wants you to come. He wants you to be skilled, but he also wants it to be good experience for both of you. I don't know. How much did your father impact you at that age? Because to me, it seems huge. He's a mountain.
It was a great impact because he unlocked the door. But back then, things were much different. Now, as a parent, we think, boy, we've got to make sure that we get little Johnny to do this and we do this. And for me, it was, okay, we're going fishing Saturday. If the wood is all cut, if the lawn is mowed, all the chores are done, you've eaten your green beans, then you get to go. And if you don't do these things, I'm going without you because I'm going. That's a lot different than how we do it today. Today, it's all about the kid. Back then, it was about the creature, whether it be a deer or whether it be a muskie or whether it be a whatever. I'm going to go do this. You need to pay your dues, and then you can also come along. Okay. That's a lot different.
So it seems like there's something about nature there that I'd love for you to talk about because it's about the creature. It's something about the wild. It's actually, what is it that is there that...
It's the natural world. There's something magic to me about the natural world.
Okay. You said something to me and my buddy yesterday that I wanted to bring back up. You said, when I've discovered all the mysteries of the natural world, then I'll come join you in the digital world. Which I got a good chuckle out of because this feels that way. I think that people tend to be pretty extreme in either way. Either it's all natural or it's all digital. And I think there's a happy medium there somewhere. But I'm super curious about this mystery because it keeps drawing you back, and is it a love for it? Is it just a romance? What is it about sitting in a boat or standing on a shore and fishing that keeps bringing you back? Because people don't do the people that I know anyways, there's not many people that do the same thing over and over and over and over again. At a certain point they lose the romance or they lose the love for it. You know what I mean?
That's the beauty about the natural world. There's never the same thing. You can do the same thing over and over if you wish, but I do the same thing over and over. Each day is different. And I don't know, it's just sort of hard to explain. There's something about the natural world where there is a consistency to it, even though it's inconsistent. The digital world, frightens me, because these things create a reliance. All of a sudden, I depend upon my cell phone. I don't want to have to depend upon it. What if we have another Carrington event and a great big electromagnetic wave blasts through the Earth's atmosphere and takes out everything? I don't want to have to be relying on that stupid cell phone. I don't have to. I mean, how many phone numbers do you know?
Right.
All this digital stuff makes us stupid, and it makes us disconnected from the world in which we live by creating some artificial bunch of nonsense. No offense.
The ironic part is, it's like, this will be on the internet, which is always so fun for me when it comes to like these kinds of interviews. Like, this is how people are going to be able to hear it.
It'll be on if their machine works.
Right. Absolutely. So I like that perspective, though, from where you sit in regards to, you don't want to rely on this. You want to be able to be self-reliant.
Absolutely, man.
So let's talk about self-reliance. Is that also something that was just instilled in you when you were young, and you're like, it's something that you carry and value forward? Because obviously when you make things, it's very clear that how quickly your mechanics and mind work together. I've watched your videos that are on Alumilite's YouTube and on makelure.com and all these other places, and it's clear you know what you're doing, and you don't even really need to be looking at your hands sometimes as to like when you're forming some goop, as you call the products that that we sell. But is that just another mechanical thing that you just picked up over time, or that self-reliance and trust in yourself to like, I can make this?
Damned if I know. I'm just when I was a kid, anytime I got a lure, if it had a lip that was bendable, I'd bend that lip to see what it would do.
Okay.
I'd tie it on backwards and see what it would do. I want to see what it does in the water. I built a lot of little airplanes and kites and all that stuff as a kid, so I was always interested in that sort of thing. And so when you've been around as long as I have and tied as many lures on as I have and bent as many lips and so on, you should begin to have some kind of an idea
of how to make these things.
Yeah.
So you made your first lure when you're 6, and then
I continued making lures all the way through. And what was funny, I'd make these things and they'd twirl around in circles. They wouldn't do anything right. And the only way I could get them to work might be to snap them and jerk them. And so I was way ahead of the curve on that side, just simply because a lot of the stuff I made didn't work.
So maybe let's move forward a little bit in time, in regards to, like, you obviously grew up, you went to college I'm assuming you went to university, and you just earlier you said you minored in poli-sci?
Minor in poli-sci, major in English, and wound up with a Bachelor of Science degree.
Okay. So
I have a BS in English. Which
great.
Is maybe obvious.
Well, you're quite articulate, and you've written some books. You've written a ton of articles.
I've written a lot of articles. I co-authored a book with some guys a long time ago on artificial lures.
Okay,
but I've been thinking about writing a book. But
I think you should. I think the world could use your perspective, I think. But the reason why I bring up that is because you have done something that's similar to me. Like, you were a producer for a long time as well. And it's sometimes hard to see people's stories and how they actually weave together, but it was really interesting to hear a little bit of yours yesterday, and I'm really excited to share it with the world that I live in. And you were a producer, but you also were like a host of a TV show. You brought all your childhood loves of fishing and making things into different contexts, and at that time it was TV, radio, print, and obviously it's online as well. How did you enjoy that dance? Did you not enjoy that dance with like interacting in those worlds? Because you obviously got to flex your creative muscles, and you got to make things still, just different contexts.
I really enjoyed shooting TV and putting together things. I enjoyed that a lot. I'd rather be behind the camera than in front of the camera.
Actually. Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really a challenge to get a live bite on camera, and I really enjoyed that part of it.
Why did you enjoy that part of it? What about that challenge is actually exciting for you? Or do I keep tapping into the same thing where you're just like, well, I don't know if I can actually describe that.
I don't know. The way I look at it in fishing is I fish to experience the fish.
Okay.
And I've only got a limited number of senses, like sight, sound, taste, tactile.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can see a fish before I even make the cast and then watch him come up and eat it, I feel my heart rate going up. And I like when my heart rate goes up.
Yeah, that excitement.
Yeah. And there's certain types of things that just continue to excite me, and it's experiencing that fish. And the more senses you can involve in it, the more fun it is.
One of my favorite things that I'm enjoying about you, even in this interview, is that you're really here, like you're actually present, and I'm sure you experienced this in what you were talking about earlier when it comes to the disconnect. And I don't
going back to Timothy Leary now. Be here now. You know?
Yeah,
sorry,
but like I don't think necessarily that technology and all that is the cause. I think that all it does is expose people for like where they naturally are. That's at least how I view it.
That's kind of interesting
because like I think people have been distracted since the dawn of time. We just took different forms. I mean, look at old articles about like the kaleidoscope, for instance. They thought that kids were going to be ruined because they were just walking down the street looking through a kaleidoscope, and they're like they're going to go crazy, and like which is because people were just like,
so that's where it started.
Yeah, it was the kaleidoscope. But it's really fascinating if you look it up, because it's true. They were like, there's like all these articles of people freaking out that kids are going to be ruined because of a kaleidoscope, which is hilarious to me. I was like, oh, that's.
Well, they said the same thing about Elvis.
Yep, and the same thing about TV, radio.
Well, it was true about TV and radio, but anyway.
I think it's just bigger. But yeah, I like the presence that you bring into rooms. Even if like you have different opinions than other people, you don't. It's not like something where it's overbearing. It's just like, this is who I am, and I'm going to interact in the world how I choose. And to me, that's really respectable, regardless of if we had different opinions about something. And I think that's if you're going to write a book, maybe that's what I would love to hear about, is like that presence that you bring into something. And that's just me asking you a selfish, like, maybe go that way, because that would be super fascinating to read. And I was an English lit major and a philosophy minor as well, so I do feel some kindred spirit there when it comes to how you roll in the world. When it comes to current days, like how much do you get to fish now? How much do you get to interact? I mean, you're semi-retired now. Like, we still work with you at makelure.com, and still do stuff with you.
I basically have tried to retire from other people's calendars.
Okay.
In the 22 or however many years I shot the Hunt for Big Fish, I was traveling all the time. Mm-hmm. I think it took me through 89 countries total in 22 years. And now I'm home. I wake up in the morning. I get up really early, 4:30, 5 o'clock. That's just me. I've always been that way. And I don't have a dragon to slay. I don't have to worry about how am I going to get to Africa or South America and how all that stuff. And so what I've retired from are the things that are half killing me. My arms are half shot. I've got epicondylitis really bad in both of them. I've got a torn tendon. I've got a hernia from marlin fishing. I've got a shoulder that they won't even insure anymore. So rather than
your body's quite beat up at this point.
It got a little beat up from a little bit too much activity. But anyway, what I've decided to do is spend the rest of my years fishing with the people who I've made friends with over the years. Spending time with my grandkids, and then trying to share with the world anything that I can that they're interested in. I'm especially interested in freeing people's minds. If you free your mind, your butt will follow. And in terms of fishing, there's so much nonsense and superstition and so on. I just want to share what I know about lure making, and just help people become more connected to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. You had an analogy yesterday about which I wanted you to tell the story of again, and that reminds me of it. You want to help people get connected, and the analogy you was talking about, like playing music to their own drum beat. Could you Could you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you-
like
what-
that to me is like.
When we first started the make lure thing, I was adamant about trying to be really broad to show people you can do anything that you can think of, and so on and so on. And then we had people that were kind of afraid of it a little bit, where they needed a more specific instructions and so on, and that's fine.
Almost like Legos, like you can build, like you don't need, you just got to build it.
Yeah, and so it seemed to me like sheet music. Sheet music is wonderful, but most people die with their music still in them. And what I wanted to do is, instead of give somebody the sheet music to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and they could learn to play Twinkle for the rest of their lives, what I wanted to do was just sort of unleash them so that they could just jam, listen to a bass beat, listen to a rhythm, and then just start playing along with it.
Playing their own song.
Playing their own song, yeah.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's maybe that could be part 2 of the book that you write, is helping people unlock that part of themselves. Because I think that's to me, that is really human and honest. And it's also like, sometimes people just forget in the crazy that life kind of throws at you.
Well, fishermen in particular are an odd group. We may share a similar passion, but some guys might get to fish every single day. You ask me how often do I get to fish? Whenever I want to. I get in my jump and go. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll fish 20 days in a row. Sometimes I might go 3 or 4 days without fishing. But the point, I guess, is that you can love to fish really a lot. And if you get to fish every weekend, one day, that's 4 or 5 days a month. That's not enough. Mm-hmm. Anyone who does anything like golf, try to be a good golfer and play once a week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You can't. You have to maintain not only the mechanical side, but mostly the where are they, what's going on. And so it's a very difficult thing for somebody who doesn't get to fish every day to kind of stay, in tune. And so it becomes, well, how do I do it? Where do I go? What do I do? And it becomes too sort of frustrating. And anything,
you actually have to have a relationship with the natural world in order to keep interacting.
Yeah, exactly.
With it.
And it's a difference between whether they're your fish or they're somebody else's fish. Somebody comes with me and we go catch some fish and stuff. They're catching my fish. I go with somebody that, I don't know, here cast over there. It's not my fish. It's their fish. They found them. Mm. And I like to have my own fish.
I feel like that might be something you got from your dad. Like I keep remembering him like, no, I'm going to go regardless. And you get to come maybe on the weekend if you've done all your chores properly. Yeah. Yeah. Or like, the muskies are mine.
The side of it too, we get, because you don't have the confidence that comes with experience and time on the water, it's easy to get superstitious and believe in voodoo.
Okay, unpack that a little bit for me, because like, what do you mean? What do you mean by superstitious?
Okay, here's one of my most favorite observations. I used to go fish a river called the Umpqua in Oregon. Kind of a tough river to fish. It's a steelhead river, and the guys are pretty secretive there. Okay, and that's fine with me. I just as soon find them myself because it's
more fun.
It's more fun.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I had located a bunch of fish. I take out binoculars and polarized glasses and get up as high as you can. Just watch the river. And if you look at any river, you'll look. All of a sudden, there'll be a little hole where you can see, and then it flows along. And you go find another hole that you can see, and it's just like a flat spot in the water. Mm-hmm. And I'd spotted these steelheads, and there was a guy fishing this spot. And I thought, well, I'll just wait for him to leave. He was 50, 60 yards away from where the fish were holding in this little basin. And he would make 10 casts, and then he'd put on another fly. 10 casts. And I sat there for an hour and a half watching him in he's got a little sheep fur thing, mm-hmm. and it's just getting full of flies that he's tied on and tried and tied on and tried. And as he's tying on his 150th fly, probably, I see a flash, and steelhead pops up in front of him in the little slot that he was fishing.
Oh, man.
So he puts on his purple fladoo or whatever and throws it out. He gets hooked up, and I hear him, fish on, fish on. I finally figured him out. I finally figured the SOBs out. And he's running down the river catching this fish. And then he went away, and I went up and caught a couple of them where they actually are, with upstream cast, doing stuff you're not supposed to do. There's all sorts of stuff you're not supposed to do for some reason that actually works very well. But anyway, I show up at this little eating place, establishment that's on the river. And this guy's sitting at a table tying his purple fladoos. Here, this is what they're hitting, man. I made one cast, first cast. He's passing everybody. Oh, yeah. That's a typical fishing situation. Fishermen are kind of like muskies. They like to follow. Fact is that the world of angling, and this is the beginning of my book, I think.
Okay.
The world of angling is like a sphere with a billion keyholes in it. And everywhere you go, there's a guy with his eye pressed up to a keyhole. Say the world of fishing is black, and it looks kind of like a floor mat. The guy next to him says, oh, no. You're completely wrong. I catch way more fish than you do. The world of fishing looks like a skull tattoo on a forearm. And on and on. And the fact of the matter is they're both right.
Right. They're just having their own little perspective.
That's right. And they don't often leave that little hole for fear they maybe won't find it again, or for fear that maybe somebody else will get it. But the fact of the matter is, what you're seeing is true, but it's a two-dimensional view. And if you're going to get a three-dimensional view of what's really there, you need to look through every keyhole that your lifetime allows you.
I think that would be a good start to the book. One of the things that you keep reminding me of is, and I don't think you're as old as he was, but forgive me about this, is my grandpa. Because like I
probably am.
I haven't really fished since my grandpa died.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that in the last 2 days that I've gotten to know you, I obviously heard some stories when I first started working at Alumilite about you, and then I got to see some of your videos and everything like that. But obviously in person is always better when it comes to meeting someone and getting to know them a little bit. And my grandpa was just habitual when it came to fishing. He would just go at super specific times, and he had his ponds and his lakes that he would go to, but he had a bum leg. He had lost his leg, and so he couldn't really get around like he used to. But he would take me and my little brother Calvin,
mm-hmm.
and we'd go to this one pond that I will never forget. And that's where I caught the biggest fish that I ever caught. It was a 10-pound bass.
And you remember it?
I remember
it like it was
every
yesterday.
detail about it.
Yeah.
But I haven't gone since. But it's something that since I've had children, I'm like, I should probably pick this back up on some level. But I'm like, has it been too long? Is it? It's because it's not like riding a bike.
It doesn't matter.
The
beauty.
So what do you tell people that like me that haven't done it in ages?
That's the beauty of fishing. It doesn't matter. If you're tall, if you're short, if you're fat, if you're thin, if you're fast, if you're slow, if you want to just sit and watch a bobber, or if you want to learn the name of every insect and learn how to tie it, it doesn't matter. This is a completely organic sport. It is not a synthetic sport where you have rules and things. Go out and turn over the rock, see what's under there, poke it with a stick, and see what it does. That's what fishing is.
No rules.
Only the Fish and Game Department.
Right.
You can't
break
those rules.
Right.
Nobody tells you when to start. Nobody tells you when to stop.
Right.
All these other synthetic sports, you got a guy with a striped shirt, a whistle, a clock, some sort of a ball, a certain minimum quorum of people, a whole bunch of stuff. Fishing, you don't need any. Just get up and go.
Just you.
Just go. It's fun to fish with friends and stuff too, but if they don't get up early,
you're going without
them. Just go.
Yeah,
it's about the fish. To me, it is anyway.
Okay, that's awesome. So, favorite fish that you've ever caught? Do you have one? Do you maybe top two or something? Maybe give me one of the top 5 moments of when your heart raced to the point where you're like, wow. this is something real. Like the story that you were talking about when your dad brought home a muskie. Like you know that you didn't even get to catch that one, but just seeing that fish with its teeth and its big eyes obviously did something to your child.
Yeah, I wanted one on the end of my line.
But like you've had to have more of those experiences because you kind of keep going back to the well.
Yeah. I've had so many that it's hard to. There's one in particular I remember. I went to West Africa to fish for blue marlin.
Okay.
And I'd never fished for blue marlin in my life.
Blue marlin, those are huge.
They can be.
Yeah.
And I talked to lots of guys who were good marlin fishermen, and many of the things they said didn't make any sense. You can only put 35 pounds of drag on them. Otherwise, run an 80-pound mono. You can't do this, you can't do that. And so I built.
Was that all superstition, or was that?
Well, I wasn't sure, so
Okay.
I was going to find out. And I took their rods that they're using, these big boat rods and stuff, and I built a little device in my workshop that measures pounds in, pounds out.
Okay.
So if you put 40 pounds here, how much you get on the end? Well, I found out that the design of these rods is not to create any leverage advantage for the angler, that's for sure. And so I built these little teeny 52-inch long rods. I went to a factory and cut patterns and rolled up these rods out of S-glass, and we put a little 30-inch flag of graphite in the base of it, so it is absolutely unbendable. There'll be a point where it bends, and then it quits bending totally. And we figured it out so that it would load at 50 pounds and not bend anymore after that.
Okay.
And then I got a 7-pound weight, and 9 months before I had to go on this trip. I mean, this sounds stupid, crazy, but I just go like this while I'm watching TV with a weight and just turn. And then when my deltoids and my thing would go liquid, I just put it down and rest for a minute and then pick it up. Driving the car anywhere I was going, I was
you were working that muscle out. Yeah.
Right. And then I'd also figured that when I figured out testing all these other rods, they have very long butts, and that butt length behind the handle does indeed give you leverage. When you increase the rod length out on the other side, it takes away leverage. But by creating a butt that's way out here, now my hand is here and I'm cranking, the only muscle that's used is a deltoid. Oof. And so I made these little short butts, like about that long, to get in here.
So you get your bicep and everything else
biceps,
involved.
Triceps, trapezius, a whole bunch of different muscles involved. And before I left for the trip, I spooled 250 wides and 280 wides. These are big reels that hold thousands of yards without stopping. We went to this place, and long story short, we caught 18 marlin, I believe, in
18
in 10 days. The biggest one they estimated at 1,300 pounds.
Holy cow!
And I was with a crew that had never fished marlin ever, so they didn't, backing up or wiring was a big issue.
For context, that is a, if you don't know, that is a boatload. That is a crazy amount of marlin.
Yeah, and they averaged.
I know that, and I don't fish.
Yeah.
Like
they were the smaller fish were probably 450, 500 pounds, and the longest it took me to land one was 28 minutes. The quickest was 18 when we sort of got it down.
Out of here.
And what I was doing is running the drags.
You sure you're not just pulling my leg right now?
No, I've got it on tape. Just press play.
Jeez.
But what I learned is that you can put all the heat you want, till up to the line breaks. And what I was doing differently is the minute they would bite, I would, listen to the ping on the line. You can hear before the line breaks, you can hear ding, 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 ding. And so what I would do is just tighten the drag really, really tight when they were smoking out, and then just listen to the ping. And the moment they stopped, we would just get on them, reel as fast as you could reel, crank it back up and start lifting. Take off, ping, ping, have to back off a little. But what that does is forces them to stay into high gear. When you don't put enough pressure, they go into low gear. You can have a 2-3 hour fight and a dead fish at the end. And
which you don't want.
No. And I did a little calculation. There's about a 20-to-1 ratio of fish flesh in the water as in the air. If I took a 10-pound bass, weighed in the air, he's 10 pounds. I drop him in the water, he's going to weigh about 8 ounces due to the specific gravity. So a 1,000-pound fish could take 50 pounds to move it. So if I'm running 35 pounds of drag, and I've got a 1,000-pound marlin, he dies. Start sinking to the bottom. It's gone.
Right.
So anyway, that was one that I really remember because I came home with a hernia and we had some great footage. There was another one. I had a hunch about a big catfish in Suriname.
Where's that?
Suriname borders Guyana on one side and French Guyana's on the other side. It used to be called Dutch Guyana.
Okay.
And we took I think it took 2 or 3 days to get up this river, 250, 300-mile run. And we caught a cat.
How many people are with you? This is when you're doing your fishing show.
Doing the show, yeah.
Yeah.
It was my cameraman, me, and my dear friend Cesar Calor, a fellow who got killed in a plane crash here a few years ago.
Sorry about that.
He was an unbelievable guy. And his friend Shockey, Kurt. So there's the guy that drove the boat, Paul. So we had a contingent.
Just Paul.
Yeah. We had a contingent that went up and we caught a catfish that was 8.5 feet long, as big around as an oil barrel.
I didn't know that the catfish could get that big.
I didn't either. If you go through there's a guy named Michael Golding that's written most of the material about catfish in the Amazon.
Okay.
And the largest one they had ever recorded was 8 feet long, and it weighed 397 pounds.
Holy cow.
And I remember that one really well because I thought I was going to die. It's the only fish that I can remember catching that I wasn't ready to catch another one immediately.
Really?
But I was a little older then, too. I maybe wasn't as good a shape as I was in my youth.
Right. Were you in a boat? Or were you on
we had a boat that was made out of 2 boats.
Okay.
So I split in half and they put it, and I had purposely taken a reel and reduced the amount of line on it because that really increases your drag. And I'm running 130-pound mono, and I didn't want to have a belt because if you get jerked in and pulled overboard, this is a really bad place to do that.
Yeah, you could be. That's it.
Yeah. But I'm hooking this thing and it starts slipping drag, and I'm thinking, there's something wrong, because I couldn't pull drag out with both hands, and hooked it up, and he started turning the boat around backwards and pulling us upstream. And
you're like, this is a big.
Yeah, and then it came to the surface. I thought it was a bull shark. Sometimes bull sharks will follow tarpon up into these rivers and many, many, many miles. But it came up, it was just this giant catfish.
So you guys let that sucker go? How's that?
There's a release. If you look on, I don't know where it is, King Kong Catfish. It's probably a YouTube thing. Okay. And it just has the release of it. Okay. And I think within 30 days, there was about 1.5 million views of it. That was one that was very, very memorable.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the mouth on that probably could swallow a person.
It could eat you. That fish could have eaten if you took the world record channel cat, the world record flathead, he could eat both of them. Jeez. So, but yeah, very, very big one. I remember my first muskie really well too. Okay. That's.
How old were you for your first muskie?
I was 9.
Okay. So you took 3 years of like sitting in that boat till you got to actually fish for one.
Oh, I was fishing for him, but I couldn't hook him.
Okay.
Yeah, but my uncle didn't want to come along anymore. It would be like, okay, Larry, now you can cast. And I had this little, it was a Fluger skill cast with a 54-pound line on it. So at the end of a cast, your retrieve rate was maybe a 3-to-1 reel to begin with. And so my dad and the guys would get, they'd cast a muskie spot. Okay, Larry, now you can cast. And it'd be like, I'd get a bite and they'd hit him. I didn't even know what they meant. And so I would lose them. And then my dad got me this lure called a bonnet. It's about this long, this big around, it's just tapered on both ends, got a propeller on each end. It has one hook on the back, one hook on the bottom, 2 hooks on each side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 hooks on it. And it got bit so many times there was no paint on it and it wouldn't float anymore. Okay. But I had never hooked a muskie on it. And the summer I was 9, we were anchored, and my dad and Arnie, his friend, were eating lunch, and I'm casting, and my dad said, take that lure out of the water. There's not enough water here to hold a fish. And just as I was lifting the bait out of the water, muskie ate it. And man, I hooked that guy. And he was cartwheeling and so on, and my dad pulled out his pistol and So they used to shoot.
That's
they used to shoot him. Yeah, shoot him
right.
in the cheek. He called it his lead net.
I didn't know that's what happened.
In Wisconsin, oh man, it was terrible. In Hayward, Wisconsin, where it was a big muskie territory. People would shoot them. I mean, they'd shoot holes in their boats. It was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Different time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you can't still do anything like that on them. I'm assuming, at least you're not supposed to.
I don't know if you have a muskie that's of legal size, I don't think you can shoot it while it's still in the water on your hook. I mean, once you get it home, you can probably shoot it. I don't know. Yeah. But it was a matter of landing nets cost $10 then, and they were crummy. And so if you land one in a landing net, it'd just wreck your landing net. And the best way, and we ate them back then. Everybody killed muskies, or most people did. Right. The safest way is to beach them. That's a really nice, easy way to do it.
Right.
You know, if you can do that.
Right.
These days, people have nets and cradles, and they know how to handle them. And
right. That is interesting. That I mean, it would have just wrecked your net, and that makes sense. I mean, like obviously, we've got it. Like it's done.
Mm-hmm. And you have to realize,
was it good?
Was it
good? Was it good when you ate it?
Oh yeah, muskie's very, very good.
I don't think I've ever had muskie.
No, you don't want to have it. Eat walleyes. That's their only redeeming quality, anyways. They make good table fare. That's what they're here for.
Okay.
I used to look at walleyes as a form of punishment because my mom didn't want us fishing muskies until we had the freezer pretty full of walleyes.
Really?
So
that's. I mean, for then, like you were actually bringing that food home because, like you said, it was a different time, and at that point, you were literally fishing to eat, and like
I mean, we had food, but
fish, but like that was also part of it. It wasn't just this game.
Definitely, yeah. It was an excuse, kind of, just like hunting. It's
right.
It's we got to have food.
So I don't have that many more questions for you because I actually really enjoy hearing about your story. And I think that's what people at the end of the day really want to hear about is like who you are and the kind of experience of what you did. But I do want to leave the floor open for you if there are things that you'd like to share about your experiences working with like Alumilite or Mike Fopel, or as you, what do you call him? The Goop King.
The Goop King.
The Goop King.
Yeah.
Goop is what you call the products that they sell, which is wonderful.
It's all Goop to me.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what kind it is. It's just Goop. And you can kind of see it. Obviously, the people that listen, you can't see it, but behind us, we're actually sitting in Mike's shop right now, and all the lures that are here, Larry taught Mike how to make on some level, which is pretty awesome. And there's like a whole bunch of them. Can you maybe help me understand what some of these are for, and we might be able to
most of the stuff I see hanging here is related to muskies.
Okay. Even those back there in the corner?
Yeah, okay. That's all muskie stuff. I see a double wobble. I see a bunch of
double wobble.
Yeah, some Mr. Wigglies. This is an interesting one. I think this was Mike's idea. This is such a good idea. We make jointed baits, and sometimes the joints are kind of a pain. What Mike did, this is so clever. He put a strip of some sort of fabric in here. I think the first time he did it, he was telling me he used like the elastic on his underwear or something, but just molded that, just placed it into the mold, molded it, and made a great, it's just a super idea. And most of this stuff, how I met Mike, I had, if you go into my shop, it's archaeologically organized.
As in like, where everything is?
Well, it's about layers.
Okay.
If you want to, you go down to the bottom layer, you might find the wood era.
Oh, yeah.
Or the cedar or the rock maple era. Okay. And there'll be parts and things at that layer that all fit together with something over on this table or that table.
Got it. Yeah, yeah.
Right? And I had just entered what I would call the goop era.
The goop era. Okay.
Because I was trying to find ways that I could make glide baits more consistently than out of wood. The problem with wood is the specific gravity varies so much from tree to tree, or even within a single tree.
Right.
The density is different.
So the way it's going to go in the water or float or anything is going to be different.
all of those things. And I've been shopping at a place. It's called the Hub Hobby shop, great hobby shop in Minneapolis.
Awesome.
With all the old, remote control stuff. And it was like a man's hobby shop rather than a, fabric and all that kind of stuff. And I've been buying some goop there. And this is really funny. I tried to, I'd forgotten all about this. This is so bad. I wanted to make a little sucker. Like a little sized sucker. And so I got a real one, and I was going to make a mold out of it.
Right.
And so I think I was using what we call now RC3, which is 2-part urethane that's actually used to make the final product. Well, I was going to use that for the mold.
Oh, no. And
so I made a nice mold box. I poured in, just like said, put this little critter in there and put it on, and this stuff has an exothermic reaction, so it develops quite a lot of heat, right? So
you're like cooking this.
Put it in there, and it's going. All of a sudden, I see a bunch of guts oozing out one side, some blood coming out the other side. I don't know how long it's going to take to set. I hadn't used it before. I don't know, and I feel it. Man, it's really warm, and I guess 5 minutes or 10 minutes went by, and it feels like I open it up. It steams, and it was the most perfectly cooked little sucker. The meat was flaky and moist.
Did you eat it?
I thought about it, and I cleaned it out of the mold, and it wasn't so good.
Right, and you're like, wait, this is wrong.
I said, something here. So I saw this phone number on the package, and I dialed the phone number, and this lady answered, and I said, can I speak to whoever's in command of this place? Sure, I'll send you down to him. And
send you down to him, which is such a great term for.
Yeah, and I thought,
that's good.
Yeah, the king should be on the top. But anyway, we started talking. I think Mike maybe recognized my voice, or I don't know. And he said, "Are you?" I said, "Yeah, the guy with the TV show, and I'm interested in doing this." And he, was polite enough.
After that.
He was polite enough not to make fun of my stupidity. And said, "Oh man, yeah, here's what you need." And he shared his knowledge of molding and casting. That to this day he holds back. The Goop King holds back, and I'll be working on something sometimes, and like 8 months later, oh yeah, you just do this. But he also
is quite humble
fish.
In that regard when it comes to he does know his stuff.
Oh, he's frightening.
Yeah, backwards and forwards.
He's frightening.
And then he just sits back and just smiles at you. Yeah, lets you kind of flop around because that's part of it.
That's right.
It is part of it.
Yeah, it's just like the fish. Are they your fish or are they my fish? Mm-hmm. When you discover something, it's that act of discovery that makes it yours, and that's the thrill if it's repeatable.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's very true.
But anyway, that's how Mike met, and then we created a relationship. And I had always wanted to do the little workshop things, and the guys at the network didn't
want to do it.
They didn't think, I shouldn't probably do. So just for fun, I decided to put one in because a lot of the shows I was doing, I would catch a fish on a lure that I'd made myself, and I'd have to kind of keep it in the QT and illustrate other other products. And I decided let's just see. Mm-hmm. And I aired the first workshop thing. I can't remember what it was, but I got more emails from that than if I would catch 1,000-pound marlin or a big giant fish or something. These were people that were genuinely interested.
Right.
And I thought, okay,
this is important.
This is what I'm going to do because these are my people.
Right.
If they're interested in this, that's the kind of people I want to.
Right. So it kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier when it kind of like helping them kind of unlock a little bit.
Yeah.
Like getting a different perspective. They're like, oh, you can do this yourself and you can actually make these things. And beyond that, then you can take that and go have your own active discovery. But you can do it the entire journey and not just at the pond or lake.
Don't worry about what's right or wrong. What it's all about is adding to the body of knowledge. And that is, if I have a mission in life, that's what it is. I hope to leave this world where I have added to the body of knowledge in some way.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, I don't have any other questions for you. Do you have any for me? Because we just met the other day, and I generally like on these interviews want to leave the floor open because you don't know me that well outside of the things that I've, elected to share with you in these brief moments. But if you do, that's okay. If not, also okay.
Well, I had all my friends at the FBI do a complete background check on you.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there's a couple of things that you need to be concerned about.
That's good. That's knowledge that I was unaware of. So I appreciate that. But no,
I don't have any questions other than when we're going to get together in my workshop and create a bunch of content. The whole point of you and I getting together is to
make some more stuff.
And
well, we started today, and we're going to keep that thing going.
Well, what I'm excited about is to get out and actually do some stuff with some of the lure makers that I've corresponded with, people that have got unique skills and talents.
Yeah.
And just go work with them. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And also my friends at River to Sea, a lot of the lures that we've developed here, the Whopper Plopper, the first designs were all drawn up at Alumilite.
Right.
And it'll be fun to get the River to Sea guys and you guys all hooked together too with some of this.
As long as you will allow me to at least be in the boat one time when we're fishing, that would be awesome.
Well, I don't have any problem with that.
Cool.
Just don't throw your lures in the trees. That's all.
I won't. I promise you that I will practice before we get the chance to go fishing.
Right. Under the swing set, into the box.
Under the swing, into the bucket. I'll do it.
Okay.
Cool. All right, Larry, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and talk. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of these, but I can't wait to actually make some more stuff with you.
Good deal.